Today on the Topping Show, Matt Walsh pulls mask off Fox News, Bud Light CEO breaks silence, Cartoon Network sneaks gender identity into cartoons, Yealing clarifies a drag event, actress makes an abortion cake, Supreme Court sides with Jack Daniels, Tesla is offering free charging as an incentive, Disney's CFO stands down, Virgin Galactic will start their commercial flights this month, Google to add to their fashion app, and Kroger, their stock just took a little bit of a dip. All that and much, much more on the Topping Show. Thank you for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of The Topping Show is sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, see their founder at least twice a day. Gotta say he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, that's a joke. If you're a business owner or an IT leader, you need a little assistance, you can reach the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Now, other interesting cultural news on that very note, you had the Bud Light CEO speaks out, almost like the groundhog's tipping up his head from the bush, or some funny metaphor I can't possibly think at the moment. Let your imaginations run wild. Even easier when you don't have all the terrible cartoons burning into your brain. Reading books is much better way to foster creativity in my 3 cents. Now, the CEO, Brandon Whitworth, says simply, "We hear you," which reminds me of the BP oil spill where South Park brilliantly made fun of the CEO, where they had that issue where obviously the big oil ruptured, and the CEO came on TV. They paid for this commercial where they pretend to be like, "I'm sorry," and it's like a cliche tilt of the head, 13 degrees, something like that. Which marketing is a challenging thing. It is a fascinating Rubik's Cube, always turning, always evolving. But yeah, they were immediately mocked beyond all belief for that, and it didn't come off as authentic. It fell flat on its face. You're going to see some parallels with this. Now, he said, "We hear you," which is fascinating because I thought he was blind and deaf, which is not a detriment on the blind and deaf community, given the historicals of having 2 months of declining sales week after week after week, and being ratioed on social media with more of the responses being critiquing of the company than the actual statements they put out. For him not to acknowledge that, I can only assume he was physically enabled or disabled to not get that data. But apparently he could hear us. News to me. Now, he goes on to elaborate saying, "We are a beer company and beer is for everyone." Well, perhaps, unquote, perhaps not appropriate to say since your spokesperson has an average age of 15 years old. Again, that was what I saw as the biggest issue, because for decades they have sponsored LGBT events and organizations. That wasn't, in my opinion, the controversial pivot point when it came to the Bud Light boycott. It was hiring a spokesperson who's, again, has an audience of children. And again, children cannot buy beer. So he says it's for everyone. Well, maybe he does mean that, actually. Now, also a friendly reminder, since that incident with that spokesperson, April 1st, they've lost $35 billion in stock market valuation. This is the business blunder of the century. People will be talking about this in business schools and finance classes for eons. This is worse than New Coke, and at the time, that was a huge revolution in the marketing and the beverage community. Which, now I say beverage community, it does sound kind of hilarious that there's like a club of buttoned-up guys talking about beverage, but I digress. Now, Whitworth, going back to the CEO of Anheuser-Busch, which owns Bud Light, Whitworth announced, quote, 3 important actions to move the company forward, including, quote, investing to protect the jobs of our frontline employees, unquote, and, quote, providing financial assistance to our independent wholesalers to help support their employees, unquote. Third, to all our valued customers, we hear you. Our summer advertising launches next week, and you can look forward to Bud Light reinforcing what you've always loved about our brand, that is easy to drink and enjoy, unquote. Fact check. It's piss water. It's not easy to drink. It causes probably 3 people a year die from drinking Bud Light because they choke on its abhorrent taste. No one's fact checking me yet, but it might be true. It sounds true. Kidding, obviously. Well, not obviously. You have to clarify these days. But you're starting to see this in advertising. They care about their frontline employees. That was not the issue. They are attempting to use emotionally manipulative persuasion in their advertising to say, don't you care about Johnny? Johnny works 8 hours a day, which that's a bad example. That's kind of pathetic. If I work 105 hours a week, 8 hours is nothing, but I digress. Johnny works 8 hours a day for Bud Light. He's an independent driver for Bud Light. Don't hurt Johnny. The controversy is not with Johnny. I've yet to see a big backlash of people verbally altercating with Bud Light delivery drivers. Thankfully, I think most people understand they're third-party logistics companies, they're third-party distributors. A lot of them are great family-owned businesses. The qualms are not with them. We agree. They didn't do anything. They're just delivering your product. Is a high praise to call it a product. It's Bud Light. But they're an independent company. Everyone knows that. We're not blaming them. But we're also, those people are not going to support them. Because again, they are supporting you. And they, again, are not addressing the issue of targeting children with advertising Bud Light to them. And some might argue there's so little alcohol, it's safe for children to drink. Some might argue. But it is not morally right to do that. And again, all this just comes off as inauthentic. So the first point is, as the British might say, bullocks, frontline employees. Yes, we understand those aren't your people. Secondly, they're saying providing financial assistance to independent wholesalers to help keep them with their employees. Now, they gave them a couple bonuses of, I believe, a couple of $500, something like that, which, unfortunately, for a lot, to me, the $500 is a lot of money. I understand that. But for a lot of these folks who have families to support, that one-time payment of $500 isn't going to help them at all. They're going to find new products to distribute. Perhaps Yailing Beer, as Yailing has started to increase their sales, both geographically and top line. For most of my lifetime, I was more in the Midwest growing up. We didn't see a lot of that on the shelves. I didn't know personally it was a big brand until the past couple of years when I moved further south and I started to see it at local grocery stores. And it kind of got me thinking, because just from a marketing perspective, I'm fascinated by who owns what. And as soon as I saw it, I'm like, probably InBev. Who owns that? I'm like, family owned that? That's awesome. That's a rare achievement in and of itself. A huge achievement, I would say, from a business and a family perspective. And then the third point, we're going to get back to doing what you love. So I guess they're going to pretend to sponsor country music events and footballs, I guess. But again, it all just comes off as inauthentic, almost comical. I'm still waiting. The amount of comedic material that has resulted from this is almost like charity to the comedy community. You've given them so much material. They're going to be thankful for many, many years. Like presidents, both on the left and the right, it's almost like a gift, the amount of material, or the amount of things they do that inspires comedic parodies. But I digress. This CEO just, again, they're not addressing the issue head on. They're just, as I like to, one of my favorite phrases lately is they're just abdicating responsibility. And time shall tell to see, again, if they're able to make it up in the long term, or if the other brands of InBev, which I believe there's still 51 brands left after they sold one brand back to the founders, is that enough, as well as global sales, to keep the company long-term profitable? Probably. My personal suspicion is how long will the specific Bud Light brand be able to stay afloat as the sales of that specific product line decrease month after month. It might become year after year. Time shall tell. I want to thank you for taking the time to tune in today. It really helps me out. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Also share with your friends. Each one of those things greatly helps the channel grow and develop. And the more we can build the channel, the more we can reinvest back in the channel with exceptional content and technologies. Maybe have some picture-in-picture someday. Also, don't forget to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers. Heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone to stay safe and fight the good fight.